Hello everyone, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Isaac.
And you're listening to Let's Talk Avatar.
This podcast is a watch-through of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
We will be discussing each episode in detail and giving our opinions on it.
So stick around and be a part of the conversation.
Just as a warning, this episode does feature spoilers from Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is a teen-rated podcast, so listener discretion is advised. Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Avatar. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Isaac.
And today we're going to be talking about episodes 13 through 16 of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The first episode, episode 13, is titled The Blue Spirit.
Ooh.
This is one of Isaac's favorites.
Again, another favorite. They just keep coming with these bangers.
I know.
On top of bangers.
They're getting really good. And me and you were so worried that they were going to get slow and bad. So we were like, cringing.
But they really haven't.
No, and now we want to keep watching. Maybe something happened where we just got a bad taste in our mouth. Or there's one episode that just made it look at... I mean, we've always loved the show and I always will. But there is a slow moment. And I know it's coming, but it's not happening as quick as I thought it would.
Or as much, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
This is making me realize now that you mentioned that there really isn't filler in this show.
I know. I've been watching with the intent of finding out what episodes are filler.
Yeah,
because we've talked about it so many times and I'm interested. But every episode so far has just really grown Aang's development or some character's development that is progressing the plot. So it's hard to say that it's filler.
Yeah, even the Great Divide episode.
That was the only episode I would have thought. But even that, it's Aang growing as the Avatar.
Yeah.
So I can't really say that's filler.
True.
But let's get back to this episode. This one specifically is the Blue Spirit. It's Aang getting captured.
Yeah, because Admiral Zhao, or General Zhao, I think it's General.
It's General,
has
and then
been
I think
promoted.
he gets promoted to Admiral. Yeah.
And he's unveiling like this new, I guess, force, like these soldiers that are really good with arrows, and the Admiral at the time is like, well, you can't command them. I'm Admiral. And then right as that happens, there's a bird that gives them a note, and Ozai says, General Zhao is now Admiral Zhao. So now he has...
How convenient.
...full reign, over the armies in that area and the whole place they're in.
Yeah, so essentially it's him in the episode trying to capture Aang, which he ends up doing. But Zuko is still wanting to capture Aang because if he brings him back, it restores his honor. Which, of course, I'd rather have, if I'm going to have anyone capture him and take him back, I'd rather have it Zuko because he's gaining something from it.
Yeah.
The other people they just want credit, They just want to add to their pride.
Yeah.
And so Zuko obviously he's not happy with the fact that General or Admiral Zhao has him. So he puts this mask on. It's literally like a blue... what did you say? It sounded kind of like a blue Chinese...
Dragon mask?
Yeah. Yeah, and so he puts it on, he's wearing all black, and he goes in and saves Aang.
But the way he gets in there is so smooth.
Yeah. This is a moment where you're like, when has he done this?
Yeah,
and
Zuko, I didn't know you were
You don't know it's Zuko till towards the end of the episode. And it's one of those really, really cool moments because the way he gets Aang... You're just like, wow, he's skilled. Whoever this is really skilled. And then you see him get Aang and they're running away and General or Admiral Zhao has them fire the arrows and Zuko gets hit. So Aang carries him into the forest, they escape, and later in the episode you see him with his mask off and it's Zuko and you're like, oh whoa, it's Zuko.
And Aang has
we already
the
knew
opportunity.
It was Zuko, but can you imagine watching it for the first time again?
Aang has the opportunity to let Zuko get captured by Admiral Zhao.
Oh yeah.
Or bring him to save him.
Yeah,
to bring him to safety.
And obviously he saves him because that's what Aang would do.
Yeah.
But it's Aang literally talking to him while
Zuko's trying to wake up.
Yeah, and he's basically saying like, I think we would be friends if this was a different timeline kind of thing, And it's one of those really pure moments where it's just like, the moment between them where you have pretty much a cat and mouse situation where you've had Zuko chasing after Aang and Aang escaping, and now it's a moment where it's just neutral, and they're both there and they both know nothing's going to happen, but it's one of those rare pure moments between them.
We forgot to mention the beginning of this episode starts out with Sokka and Katara sick. Like, super
that's
sick.
Right. That's why
Aang had to go.
He's going to get frogs for them to suck on.
Yeah, these nasty frogs.
Oh, I don't know if I want to be cured if I would have had to suck on frogs.
I'd rather just die. I'm just kidding.
And then Momo's bringing.
Yeah.
Momo literally brings back all Katara's asking for is water, and he brings back by the end of the episode, it's just nothing but random knickknacks surrounding them.
There's like
so piled up. She has a crown on her head, like.
Yeah, Sokka thinks he's talking to a princess. It's like, oh my gosh.
It's actually really funny. It's one of those episodes where it's Aang on his own basically, but it's entertaining to see them in the state they are.
To watch Zuko and Aang get out of that sort of like, I guess, military base area.
It just gets me fired up for later episodes, and I just want to talk about it, and I can't.
To watch them work together, they are so good together. Yeah. Like, unstoppable good. Mm-hmm. Not even those soldiers with the arrows could even get them.
I mean,
he got Zuko.
They got Zuko. No, but they went a long time until they got hit. Yeah. And it was Zuko, and even Aang got him out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that episode is really, it's really good. It's one of those really key moments where the last episode was the storm, and even then you see Zuko say, leave the Avatar alone, like, we're gonna go this way. And they even make eye contact in that episode where it's like they come to a realization where it's like, okay, we're on a neutral state right now. And then the next episode just reinforces that, and that's what I think is cool. You're starting to see a relationship develop.
Like I said, the storm was a complete shift / change in the entire show.
Yeah, for sure. So that's pretty much that episode. I mean, it's basically Aang and Zuko's relationship being unfolded, I guess, or beginning.
Yeah.
And then the next episode 14, is the fortune teller. This one I would say is kind of filler. Actually,
yeah.
This one I'm not a fan of. It was probably one of my least favorite, just because, I mean, no, it's not filler because it shows the love between Aang and Katara starting.
Okay, but then they bring in an unnecessary character like May.
Yeah, true. It is, for the most part.
And she gets in the way of all of it.
If I were to consider any episode thus far filler, it would be this one, the fortune teller. And it's funny because it's like she's saying that there's a volcano next to this village and that the village isn't going to be hit by this volcano, but then it starts to erupt and the village and Aang and the gang and everyone gets together and stops it, like makes little, what would you say?
It's like levees or
levees, yeah, like little, what's the word?
Trenches around like a moat.
So that when it explodes, that's where the lava and everything goes rather to the village.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fortune teller was right in saying that
the village wouldn't be destroyed.
Yeah, but she was wrong
in
saying that she even says, she's like, I didn't say that the volcano wouldn't explode. I just said that the village wouldn't be destroyed. And it's one of those funny moments. But this episode really, there's not much for me to say about it. Do you have anything to say about it?
All I have to say is Aang was able to stop all of that lava and literally encase it in a wall around the village without being in the Avatar state.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, I feel like his power level before was already pretty high, but now it's like, you know, it's up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one we can't, there's not really much for us to say.
Once again, Sokka's like, you guys are really going to believe a fortune teller?
Yeah, he's the voice of reason. Why are we even
here?
He's the voice of reason. So, moving on to the next episode 15. This one is Bato of the Water Tribe. This one really, you know, these last two episodes, they really weren't. And I mean, Bato is cool because he's their dad's best friend. So you get to see, at least you get to hear about their dad and more of that side, which is interesting, but it's still not captivating, I guess you can say.
But it's an opportunity for Sokka to kind of
grow.
Be the man that he wants to be, you know, to to fill in his dad's shoes, I guess.
Well, yeah, and doesn't Aang get a hold of the map to their dad?
Yeah.
And he pretty much holds it hostage without them knowing, and then they find out he has it, and of course Katara and Sokka get upset at him. I mean, I would too. And they leave him, and he's by himself. But then they also come to a realization. This is where Sokka's like, I need to be the man in our group, and Katara's the same way. She's like, we need to go back. This is where we need to be right now, not with our dad. And it's one of those moments where even as teenagers, that's a really hard decision to make because they haven't seen their dad in a long time. And I'm sorry, but if I didn't see my dad that long and the world is pretty much coming to an end, it seems like, that's who you'd want to spend your time with.
Wouldn't you think, like, how am I going to save the world? Like, let me go say bye to my dad at least.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And it's also another example of Aang's immaturity, I guess. You know, because he's still a kid. But they do a really excellent job having episodes where you're like, wow, he's powerful and he's the Avatar. But then they still have episodes where it's like, he's still a kid, you know? And that's what I think they do really good at, because I feel like some other shows, they can get kind of, away from that and not emphasize the fact that they're a kid, you know? Channel your inner kid and realize at that age, what would you be doing?
Yeah.
What would you want?
I just love this episode for the sole fact that we've been talking for the past 2 episodes of this podcast that Sokka has been developing more and he has been the voice of reason. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this episode is kind of a chance for him to blossom in that character development.
Yeah, and he does. He does a really good job in this episode of manning up and doing what he needs to do beyond his feelings.
And a lot of it had to do with Bato as well. Bato is teaching him and telling him stories about all these different things about the Water Tribe and his dad. And Sokka, if he's going to listen to anyone, it's going to be Bato.
Yeah, of course. Definitely. But at least the one thing I think is really cool about this episode is you get to hear about their dad and know that he's okay.
Yeah. Because
you really don't know until this point much about their dad or what's been going on. So it's kind of a good, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
Explanation?
Yeah, good explanation and look into their life, you know?
Because we already knew about their mom and how she died, but they never really talked about the dad.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
So moving on to the last episode in this, I guess, podcast episode, the last one we've watched, number 16, The Deserter.
Oh, yeah. I was like, did we talk about the fortune teller?
We only talked about it for like 30 seconds, so. The Deserter.
Oh, this, again, another one of my favorite episodes.
This is such a good episode. They do a really good job of the last episode on the disc being a really good episode because it's every time. This episode is Aang learning to firebend. And they pretty much come in contact with this guy who is like, who's a firebender. And he's like, I know you're the Avatar. I want to help. But he talks about being trained by someone, doesn't he? Or he takes them to the deserter who is, what's his name? I can't
Zhang.
Yeah, that's right.
But they end up meeting, or this guy like helps them get out of this Fire Nation village.
Yeah.
Is it in the Earth? I think it's in the Earth Kingdom.
I think it is in the Earth Kingdom.
And he basically tells them that he's trying to take them to Zhang because he knows the Avatar needs to learn firebending to save the world. And Zhang is actually the deserter. He's the first one to leave a Fire Nation, I guess, military without being reprimanded or having some sort of circumstance.
So he's very powerful. He knows a lot about firebending. He's very gifted.
Yeah.
And eventually they meet him, and he refuses to train him. He's just like, firebending is not good. You will hurt people. You'll hurt yourself. It's just not good in general. And during this moment, Aang is still there like, I need to learn. And all of a sudden, the atmosphere, the setting changes, and it's Roku talking to Zhang about how he's going to train him.
Yeah, I got major goosebumps.
Because Roku shows up and he's basically like, I don't care how you feel, you're going to train him. And he needs to know because he needs this skill to save the world.
And he's like, I have learned elements thousands of times, thousands of skills. You will teach the Avatar. And then he burns that tree next to Zhang and he's like, okay, I will. And then it cuts to present day and Aang's like, oh, you will?
Yeah, and Aang's like, oh, thanks. Like, doesn't even know about any of it. But it's just, it makes me realize how amazing Roku is. I don't know why in my head for so long I looked at him as like this more like, because I guess he is more laid back compared to Kyoshi and other avatars, but him as an avatar, I want like a prequel on. I want to know about.
I want a whole story.
I want to know about his time as Avatar, because when you see him appear, it literally gives you goosebumps.
Yeah, because he's literally the Avatar before Aang, but he's also like this wise figure for the entire world, I feel like.
Yes, and so much respect. People have so much respect for him, and the fact that he is able to help Aang in the way that he is just amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Aang learns fire bending, but
very slowly,
because he
but
doesn't,
very impatiently.
Yes, he doesn't have very much patience, and that's what it takes to obviously learn a lot of the bending skills. And so, short story. What's the word I'm looking for? What can I say?
Long story short.
Yeah, long story short, he ends up getting ahead of himself. And Katara's like, hey, you need to take it slow, like you've been taught. And then he ends up burning Katara's hands.
Yeah, he's like, look what I can do. And she's like, take it slow. And then there's like this cool animation scene where he's bending this huge like wall of fire around him.
But he doesn't know how to control it. And he slowly looks
over, and Katara just like gets burned both hands.
And Sokka shows up and is upset, obviously, because he's like, you burned my sister, you know. And then Aang feels really bad, obviously. And this is where Katara goes into the water and she puts her hands in and she literally heals her hands.
And I don't think she meant to do that.
No, I think she just went to the water for comfort, you know?
Yeah.
And then Zhang Zhang comes up and he's like, not many waterbenders can heal like that, can do that. And it's another moment where you realize that Katara has powers we haven't seen yet, you know? And it's just, this is a really cool episode because, again, the characters develop, you know? And of course, during this time, Zhang Zhang is talking about who he's trained, who his last, I guess, guinea pig was. And what would you know? It's Admiral Zhao.
But there's awesome kind of dialogue between Katara and Zhang Zhang before he leaves. And he's talking about firebending and how each firebender in their life has two paths that is given to him: destruction or basically not to bend at all type thing. Because in his eyes, fire bending is like the most destructive element out there.
And it is. I mean, look at what it's done so far.
But think about that. He's like one of the greatest masters of firebending in the entire Avatar universe, pretty much. And his stance on firebending is never do it. You don't ever want to learn this.
Well, I mean, he talks to Aang about Admiral Zhao, too. This is a really key component because he talks about the way he was and he let his pride get in the way of a lot of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And then
he had no self-control.
And that's a key component that you need to have when firebending. So, Admiral Zhao shows up and he knows the Avatar's there, so he's going to attack him. Grab him again, you know, kidnap him. And is it Zhao Zhao that puts up that huge firewall?
Yeah.
That was boss.
And that's really showcasing his ability.
Yeah, because it's huge. And Aang, so Zhang Zhang tells them to leave. He's like, I can handle it, you just leave. But of course, Aang can't do that.
Yeah.
So Aang comes to his defense. And Aang is really smart here. This is where I am just amazed with his character. He fights Admiral Zhao by taking his weakness and turning it against him.
Yeah, and Aang does not throw a single punch, does not bend any element.
And Admiral Zhao is like, you're not even bending, da-da-da-da. But the entire time, he's talking to Admiral Zhao like, wow, you're the greatest firebender? That can't be true.
And he was like, oh, Zuko's better than you.
Yeah, like literally doing dings to his ego, which is what gets Admiral Zhao in trouble. And so by the time he's done, or he tells Aang, he's like, wow, you haven't even bended. And he's like, yeah, because you've done enough for the both of us, or something like that.
He puts his hand out, and Admiral Zhao looks at all the destruction he's caused.
And he's literally burnt out the entire forest, all of his boats, literally all around him. So now he's stuck there because of his own ego. He let his ego get in the way. And because Aang knew that, he was able to defeat him without using any bending. Which goes to show, no matter how strong of a bender you are, if you don't have the balance within your mind that you need, or the self-control, you will...
That just goes to show...
That will be your weakness.
Yeah, that just goes to show Aang's ability, not only Aang, but all the airbenders' ability to kind of take scenarios and realize what they are as, like, truths. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like airbending is the element out of any that is very sophisticated and truthful. Like, they see the truth, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
They don't really let things get to them.
You have to be a balanced person to be able to airbend.
Sanity.
Exactly.
Clear mind, that's what I was thinking.
You have to have a clear mind, and I think that helps when learning other elements. You can tell even with the difference with him and Korra learning elements, because his strong suit is balance and like clarity. And other avatars, that's not their strong suit. So it's it's obviously very evident as an airbender becoming an avatar, these things happening to him, why it's easier for him to learn these things.
Yeah. And then at the end they talk about how they're on their way to the North Pole, which I'm like, it doesn't look like you're close to the North Pole, but
hold on.
like
They've
you're
been
already
saying they were going to the North Pole for like 12 episodes now.
Yeah. But what was that? That was like episodes 13 through 16?
Yeah, those were episodes 13 through 16.
So
now we get to watch even more episodes, and I'm excited.
The next 4 are literally going to be the end of season 1.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We'll be on to book 2.
Already?
That's
Dang,
so
this
exciting.
is like flown by, I feel like.
I know. And
that's
really
why we're
hard.
also doing Korra
I
as
said
well.
this last podcast, but I'll say it again. It is so hard to limit myself to only watching 4 episodes because I just want to keep watching. It's so good right now.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I also know what's to come, and I want to get there, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Again, as always, if you are watching with us, listening along, let us know how you feel about these episodes, because we may have missed something that you're picking up on or vice versa. So stay connected. Let us know. I'm Rachel.
I'm Isaac.
And we will see you next week.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Let's Talk Avatar. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Rachel.
You can find us on our website at nonessentialmedia.com.
On Instagram under Nonessential Media.
On Twitter at nonessentialm.
And on Facebook by searching Nonessential Media. Join us next week for another episode of Let's Talk Avatar.
We love the Unagi.